Welcome to Chilling Fireside Stories, where tonight, we unravel the haunting tale of the Greenbrier Ghost. It's a story that has captured imaginations for over a century. A murder mystery so eerie that it was solved by the victim herself. Or so the legend says. Pour yourself a cup of something warm, get cozy by the fire, and prepare to dive into a mystery where the dead don't stay silent. Our story takes place in the small, sleepy town of Greenbrier, West Virginia. This rural community was nestled deep in the Appalachian Mountains, surrounded by dense forests and isolated valleys. It was the late 19th century, January 1897 to be exact, and a bitter winter had gripped the town. The cold air was sharp, biting at anyone who dared to step outside. Thick snow covered the ground, turning the hills into a frozen, quiet landscape where time seemed to stand still. In this isolated town lived a beautiful young woman named Elva Zona Heaster. Zona, as she was known to everyone, was full of life, tall, striking, and known for her radiant smile. She had recently married a man named Erasmus Stribling Trout Shoe. This man, who had come to Greenbrier only a few months before, was a blacksmith. A man of strength with an air of mystery about him. His past, well, that was something of a question mark even to those who knew him. But to Zona he was a dream come true. Their marriage had been a whirlwind, fast and passionate. But it wasn't long before Zona's friends and family began to sense something was off. There were whispered rumors, small signs that perhaps not everything was as perfect as it seemed. Then, on a cold January morning, tragedy struck. A young boy, sent by Erasmus to run an errand, discovered Zona lying at the bottom of the stairs in her home. Lifeless, her body twisted awkwardly. The scene was shocking. Her arms were placed by her side, her head turned unnaturally to one side. When Dr. George Knapp, the town's doctor, arrived at the scene, things took an unusual turn. Erasmus was already there, holding Zona's body, weeping uncontrollably. He refused to leave her side, cradling her head, dressing her in an unusual high-collared dress. It was odd. This wasn't the job of a grieving husband. Traditionally, the women of the town would have prepared the body. But Erasmus insisted. Dr. Knapp, unable to properly examine the body due to Erasmus's grief and interference, hastily declared the cause of death as everlasting faint, a vague term that essentially meant a heart attack. Zona was buried quickly and with little fanfare. To the town it was a sad but straightforward case. A young woman taken too soon. But not to Zona's mother, Mary Jane Heaster. She knew something far more sinister was at play. Mary Jane Heaster was a woman of deep intuition, and from the moment she heard of her daughter's death, a deep unease settled into her bones. Zona had been healthy, vibrant. Something just didn't feel right, and Mary Jane could not shake the feeling that her daughter had not died from natural causes. As days passed, this feeling only grew stronger. People in the town dismissed Mary Jane's suspicions as a mother's grief, but she was relentless. She prayed night after night, begging for answers. And soon those answers came. According to Mary Jane, one night while she lay in bed, Zona's spirit appeared to her. But this wasn't a fleeting vision. Zona's ghost was vivid, real, and clear as day. Over 4 consecutive nights, the ghost of Zona visited her mother, each night more revealing than the last. She recounted the night she died, speaking in a soft, eerie voice that echoed through the room. Zona told her mother that Erasmus had not been the loving husband he appeared to be. Beneath his charm lay a violent, abusive man, quick to anger. On the night of her death, she said they had argued, and in a fit of rage, Erasmus had grabbed her by the neck and twisted until her windpipe snapped. To prove it, Zona's ghost did something that would haunt Mary Jane forever. She turned her head completely around, demonstrating how her neck had been broken. Mary Jane, deeply religious and certain of what she had seen, knew she had to act. She believed her daughter had come back from the grave to tell her the truth and demand justice. With newfound determination, Mary Jane Heaster marched straight to the local prosecutor, John Alfred Preston. Her story seemed unbelievable, visions of a ghost, accusing her husband of murder. Initially, Preston was skeptical. Ghostly testimonies weren't exactly admissible in a court of law. But Mary Jane was persistent, and over time, Preston became uneasy. What if there was truth in her claim? He agreed to launch an investigation, and soon Zona's body was exhumed. This time, a thorough autopsy was performed, and what they found sent shockwaves through the town. Zona's neck had indeed been broken, her windpipe crushed, her spine fractured, and clear signs of strangulation were visible. There was no question. Zona had been murdered. Erasmus Shue, who had acted so grief-stricken, was immediately arrested, and soon his dark past began to emerge. Erasmus had been married twice before, and both of his previous wives had died under mysterious circumstances. Though he had tried to hide it, his reputation as a violent, controlling man now came to light. The town, once charmed by him, now saw him for who he truly was, a dangerous predator. In July of 1897, the trial of Erasmus Shue began. The evidence was damning: the broken neck, the history of abuse, the quick burial. But what captivated the public's attention more than anything was the testimony of Mary Jane Heaster. On the stand, she told the court of her ghostly encounters with Zona. She described how her daughter had come to her from beyond the grave to reveal the truth of her death. The courtroom buzzed with whispers. Was it possible that Zona's spirit had truly visited her mother? The defense tried to dismiss Mary Jane as a hysterical woman, but the prosecution allowed her testimony to stand. And while some in the jury may have doubted the supernatural element, the physical evidence was enough to convict Erasmus Shue. He was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison. Erasmus died behind bars just 3 years later, but the story of Zona Heaster Shue, the Greenbrier Ghost, lives on. It remains one of the only times in American legal history where a ghost's testimony helped convict a murderer. But here's where the mystery deepens. Could Zona's spirit really have come back to demand justice? Or was it simply a grieving mother's desperate search for answers? Some believe Mary Jane may have known more than she let on. Had she pieced together clues and used the ghost story to push the investigation forward? Others argue that the supernatural can't be ruled out so easily. After all, who's to say what the dead can and cannot do? Even today, Zona's grave draws visitors from all over, curious to see the final resting place of the woman who, in death, refused to stay silent. Thank you for joining me by the fire tonight. The Greenbrier Ghost is a story that sends shivers down the spine. What other unsolved mysteries lie waiting to be uncovered? If you enjoyed this story, you won't want to miss what's coming next. We have plenty more chilling tales of murder, mystery, and the paranormal. And now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you heard of a ghost story or unsolved case that keeps you awake at night? Drop your suggestions in the comments below, and we may feature it in a future video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to stay cozy and curious.